India is in a new orbit in space. India's astronaut or Gaganyatri, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla, made history by becoming the first Indian to step into the International Space Station. I have with me Dr. Pawan Goenka, a person who's a promoter and a regulator of the Indian space ecosystem. Today, the space ecosystem is larger than the Indian Space Research Organization. Thanks a lot for
Nice
being
to see you again, Pallav.
Always a pleasure. Dr. Goenka, Group Captain Shukla, going into space, what does it mean for us?
So, Pallav, a lot has been said about this in the last week or so. It's a beginning of a long journey for India. Okay? Clearly, it's a very proud moment for everyone, for ISRO, for Department of Space, for the whole of India. But this just signifies where we are headed, not where we are starting. Okay? And the things it will lead to as a starting point are the human space flight, landing on the moon, Indian Antariksh Station. All of these things are big project for India that really will take India into a new orbit in space. And that's the reason it's so significant that this event is happening.
So, the first firm steps for India's human space program is that?
Absolutely. To have first Indian in space after 40 years, to have first Indian in the International Space Station, first ever to be there, to conduct experiments for the first time in space. These are all sort of big things that India has been waiting for a long time. And it was so good that the opportunity came. Our Honorable Prime Minister met with Mr. Trump and signed a understanding, and this happened.
And will this be like the learning and like Group Captain Shukla told Prime Minister Modi from his interaction in space that he's imbibing everything like a sponge.
Yes.
So when he imbibes that, will he be able to transfer that knowledge to our Indian Space Research Organization and to our private sector?
I'm sure he would. I'll tell you why. See, you can read a lot of things, you can see a lot of things, but being there and doing it yourself is very different than seeing it and hearing about it. Now, Group Captain Shukla is one of the astronauts who will go in the Indian human space flight. What he's doing today right now is interfacing with multiple astronauts who have been there, done that for multiple times, right? He's interacting with a dozen or so scientists who are in the ISS right now, who have been there for a long time. How to conduct experiments in space, what kind of things happen in space that the muscle, the health, all of these things he will be seeing firsthand. And obviously he's been trained for a long time by ISRO, even before this mission was announced. And that will allow him to take on the right things, right kind of inputs while he's there. We filter out what I don't need to carry with me in terms of information and what do I need to carry with me, bring it back and explain all of that to the ISRO scientists so that they can implement all of that in our own human space flight.
You worked with the automotive industry for long. So he's dirtying his hands and working with the actual hardware which flies, so gives the touch and feel which we were lacking. Is that a fair estimation?
I would think, yes, that's a fair statement. Because if we had gone into our own human space flight before this step in between, there would have been some level of moving in the dark, right? It's not that suddenly it becomes a very well-lit tunnel because space has a lot of mysteries that nobody will ever understand, but at least gives us some sort of understanding of what lies on the other side of the tunnel, and that will prepare us better for the human space flight.
Now, how does this prepare for India's space ecosystem? See, ISRO will certainly learns things. He will bring back learnings for the 4 Gaganyatris who have been identified, but what does it bring in for the larger space ecosystem, the larger system which you represent in a way?
So, multiple things. So, let me first say that the 3 major initiatives ISRO, the human space flight, which will happen perhaps in about 2 years, landing man on the moon, Indian on the moon,
the 2040.
The 2040 and the Indian space
Bharatiya Antariksh Station.
These are 3 very important initiatives which will be influenced by this one small step that we have taken right now. And I'm sure ISRO scientists are watching very carefully on how to imbibe all the learning and translate that. So that's done. That's on one side. And I think, frankly speaking, the fact that India has not been able to conduct any major experiments in space so far for lack of this kind of infrastructure is something that we had to correct. And this will get corrected over the next 10 years. 10 years in a space time frame is not a very long time. Right? Coming to the private sector, it creates many new opportunities. Okay. First of all, at a very sort of high end, deep tech, there are a lot of startups and companies who want to do experiments in space to understand more, innovate new things, and be able to translate that into commercial opportunity. Now, this provides the opportunity, right? So with this, whatever will happen, in fact, some of them may even take a step to say, I'm going to use ISS to conduct my experiments. People want to understand how to do pharma R&D in space. People want to understand how to do manufacturing in space. All of that will probably open up a little bit more, though it's a very early stage, but open up a little bit more. More importantly, in the short term, commercial opportunities that will come. Okay? So in any kind of human space program, it's a very expensive program. Okay? And 60, 70, 80% of that spend will flow to private sector. Right? So therefore, it will bring opportunities not for what just can happen in India, but what our Indian companies can do for companies like Axiom, for example, who may be scouting right now on what can happen in India. SpaceX may be scouting right now what can happen in India. Because what has happened in the last 2-3 years, Pallav, that the ability of the Indian private sector in space has come to light. Okay, it was kind of beneath the surface.
Sure.
In the last 3 years, companies have become bolder, more aggressive, willing to take risks, willing to talk about it, willing to step out of a comfort zone. And all of that will lead suddenly to discovering India almost in terms of what Indian space companies can do in India and outside India. What ISRO can do is very well known, very well established. What Indian companies can do is not very well known. And that's what will happen now.
Now, as the mission was happening, you met with the CEO of SpaceX, and SpaceX was the company which made the rocket, gave the crew capsule, and is a big partner in the Axiom 4 mission, which I sometimes call Mission Akash Ganga. Was the CEO of SpaceX excited about this mission and also about what may come beyond?
Well, frankly, we didn't talk about this mission because InSpace is not involved with it directly, and I didn't want to kind of sort of deep dive into it and make her uncomfortable if they didn't want to talk about it. So we didn't discuss this mission. What we talked mostly about is Starlink, on what are the hurdles for them yet to come into India with the Starlink. And we talked about what SpaceX might do in India beyond just bringing a Starlink to India. And that's the thing that's very exciting. So when I talk about Indian ecosystem becoming visible to the world, it's one of those things. It's a large company. If they suddenly see, yes, India can offer them something that they don't have today, clearly that will make a very big difference for Indian companies.
So meaning there would be opportunity for Indian private space startups, and there are 200 plus of them. And already there's talk of how the Indian rocket could ferry material to the International Space Station or to the commercial space stations which are going to follow up, and to that even the Indian crew module could also be used as a vehicle for sending cargo. Does that sound plausible?
It sounds plausible, but see, in commercial space, it's all about value. Okay, if India can provide a better value to the user on the other side, they will use India. If India cannot, it will not. It cannot happen because of any kind of diktat coming from anywhere.
Sure.
So our role is to ensure that Indian companies can provide that value. Value in technology, value in cost, value in timeliness, all of those things. And I'm frankly very excited about what might be ahead for us.
Now, what does this mean for this space economy? Because we have a slowly but steadily increasing space economy, and suddenly we get a catalytic moment. Does that provide an impetus to the space economy to burgeon?
It does, Pallav, but let me just first say that the target that we have taken, the ambition of $44 billion, is a huge target. And we need more than one such sort of input to the space economy. Yes, it does provide that input, but this is not the only one that we need. We need few more to get to that $44 billion. And again, see, success breeds success. If we see some delivery coming from our Indian private sector, more will happen, and it just accelerates. Because see, India has the fundamental value giving opportunity. The raw talent that India has in science and technology is unmistakable. Okay, people don't sometimes value it. Sometimes we get bogged down by our R&D spend is low, we don't have IPR, this, that, other. The raw talent is very much there, very much there. And fortunately, many of these people have chosen to come into space. Right? So when you meet, I'm sure you meet many of these young companies, and it has to be exciting. I mean, you have to feel like absolutely.
It's about passionate.
Yes, top of the world. So therefore, I am personally very, very positive of what might lie ahead for the Indian space sector as a whole, and for Indian private ecosystem in particular, and what it will do to the economy. And when you grow space economy, you grow your power in the world. You grow your prestige in the world. Sure. It's not just about dollars and cents. Sure. It's more about what it does to your overall standing in the pecking order. Sure. So it's win-win-win.
Sure. Now, beyond this, will Group Captain Shukla, he will certainly return as a hero, but will he turn a hero for the Indian space ecosystem? And then as India progresses to a Viksit Bharat, he could play a big role, and the space economy play a big role in a developed country?
See, heroes the impact of heroes go beyond a small sort of boundary that you
domain.
Create, a small domain. So it's very much up to him in some sense, right? He could sort of contain himself into a small thing. Said, I have gone to space, I know what to do, I can go and talk to ISRO, and that's my role. Or he can become a spokesperson for the Indian space ecosystem, for the Indian space sector, for Indian space opportunities. I have a feeling he'll do latter, not the former. Okay, I've never met him, but seeing whatever I have seen of him so far, hearing him, I think he'll be more of a latter than former, and therefore he will have a big impact on the whole economy, the whole ecosystem.
So, Dr. Goenka, excited by having an Indian astronaut in space 41 years after Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma went up. So, Sharma to Shukla, a big moment?
Yes, it is a big moment. I don't know what Sharma to Shukla means, but yes, from one person who went there 40 years ago to another person who is going now, it's a big moment.
Thanks a lot for speaking to me,
sure,
Dr. Goenka.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure talking to you.
Okay.
So that was Dr. Pawan Goenka, a leader in engineering, a leader in technology. He revved up the automotive sector. He has now revved up the Indian space sector. Excited about having an Indian at the International Space Station, and hoping that it would give a lot of benefit for India's space ecosystem. ISRO would benefit, but the larger ecosystem is where the tangible benefits could come in times to come. In New Delhi, Pallava Bagla for NDTV.